Good afternoon and welcome to Bermuda's News and Views. I'm your host, Don Burgess. And with us today, we have a double special. We have two ministers with us, Minister Peets and Minister Roban. And we're going to start with Minister Peets, who is Minister of Youth, Culture, and Sport. Welcome, Minister.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm really glad to join your show today.
How's your day gone so far?
Actually, not bad. Outside my window, it's relatively sunny outside, so I'm really happy about what the day is looking like today. So I'm really excited. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. So we're going to start with a question I had submitted to me. What are the chances of having a proper Bermuda Day parade this year?
The prospects look absolutely fantastic, if that's the short answer. So I'm really excited about some of the prospects for this year, given the fact that, these last 24 months have been extremely difficult for our country, but it's also been very difficult for all of us who live on this planet. But having said that, I'm certainly looking forward to the remainder of 2022 as it relates to some of the things that we've got planned. And one of those, of course, is a return in full of Bermuda Day as we know it.
Do we know what the theme for this year's parade is going to be?
We don't have the theme yet, but I'm pretty sure the Department of Culture is working on that at the moment. Last year's theme, of course, was on resilience. So perhaps this year is going to be on celebration, perhaps.
Well, if we have it, it will be a celebration.
Yes, it would be. Yes, it would be.
Now, as Minister of Sport, what are your views about possibly hosting the America's Cup again? Bermuda Tourism Authority Chief Executive Officer Charles Jeffers was on our show on Monday, and he commented about it during our last interview. So here's a look about what he said.
Okay. We're talking about sports. This would be a bit controversial, but if you could get the America's Cup back, would you do it?
Would I do it? I think we learned a lot from the America's Cup in 2017, and so I think we could take that knowledge and probably do it a little better and a little smarter. So I would never say never to something like that, but I think there's some other things that we should also be going after, some bigger events that we probably haven't thought about being done in Bermuda.
Such as what?
Well, I can't tell you everything, though.
Well, I'm trying.
So, as Minister, if we could get the America's Cup back, is that something you would be in favor of, with some, like the ministers or the CEO said, with some ways of doing it better and smarter?
Yeah, absolutely. I did have an opportunity just a few moments ago, of course, to be down there at the visitor center for their 100-day lunch. The event will be here in 100 days. By incidence, it actually falls on my birthday on May 14th.
Yeah, and you mean SailGP? I don't think you said that.
SailGP, thank you so much. But in relation to your question, absolutely, I certainly do support it, at least for two reasons. And there might be many other reasons I can probably share with you and your listeners. Number one, of course, outside of its economic impact, this particular event really raises and uplifts sport overall. So when we see SailGP out there doing their fantastic job with what they do on the water, it not only lifts up the maritime and the sailing sport, but it elevates the rest of the sport as well, as it relates to encouraging the rest of us in other sports to do similar events along those lines. But also, Don, maybe your listeners are also aware that SailGP also has a very strong connection with their youth initiative, particularly as it relates to their relationship with the Endeavor program and, of course, our Sloop and Spirit program. So for those reasons, I certainly support it. Bermuda has a strong and long history with the maritime, so it certainly fits within our DNA and our culture. So thumbs up to the BTA and all of our maritime sailors. Looking forward to SailGP.
Okay. We're going to take some reader questions in a moment, but I've got two more that I want to get to before we start taking them. Can you estimate how long the safety policy may be in effect for events that are affected by your ministry?
Well, COVID, of course, is going to be around for a long time to come. Moving beyond the pandemic and learning to live with COVID, of course, is going to be something that our jurisdiction and every jurisdiction is going to have to grapple with, not just today, but in the weeks and months and years to come. SafeKey, of course, is a tool, and it's best used, of course, when everyone understands how it works, and it certainly has its benefits. But as it relates to its current implementation, some immediate changes to SafeKey will be announced on tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to actually sharing that information with the public tomorrow. Having said that, I think most people are going to be encouraged about the few weeks and few months going into the spring and summer about outdoors activity, return of sport in a very fulsome way. So yes, so it's going to be some exciting news about SafeKey going forward.
All right, we look forward to that announcement tomorrow. Can you give us an update on the progress with the Clarence Hill bust?
There has been some dialogue about that, of course. Of course, we mentioned that a few months ago as it relates to some of the things that we were doing around the Flora Duffy celebration, of which was fantastic. I certainly applaud our ministry as well as the entire country on how we celebrated Flora Duffy. So right now, that particular situation falls under our remit as it relates to the commissioning of a statue, both for Clarence as a bust and for Flora Duffy herself. There are some significant budget restraints at the moment, so I don't have a particular update, but our commitment to doing that hasn't changed.
Since you mentioned the budget restraints, because the budget's going to be announced this next month, how much have the conditions affected your budget for the coming year? Can you tell us?
I don't have any final numbers at the moment to indicate to the public, only that we're going to have to be nimble as well as creative with our budget going forward. COVID, of course, and the economy and its recovery are our primary concern as a government. So I'm hoping, of course, that we'll be able to do at least what we're currently doing with our current budget, if not a little bit more as relates to our ability to be creative.
Okay. We have a reader question from Marcel Beach. Does Youth in Sports still have a grant program?
Yeah, so there is still a grant program, and applications are available through Youth in Sport. You can contact the director or Jacon Etnis or perhaps Macy O'Deal, who can provide you with the information on how to apply. We're also looking forward to the sports awards that are coming up in a few weeks as well. So that's one of my highlights of the year, having an opportunity to see the accomplishments of our athletes and potentially have an opportunity to grant them a small donation towards their education and their sporting activities.
Now, have the nominations for the sports awards, have they closed already, or is there still?
Yeah, those, to my knowledge, they've already closed already. But if there is any last minute opportunity, please reach out to Youth in Sport, to the director, or to Macy O'Deal or Jacon Etnis, and they'll be able to direct the question to the person who can answer that.
This is sort of a rhetorical question, but I guess it's going to be an easy pick for Female Athlete of the Year.
I know what my vote would be, yes.
Another parent question, and you've sort of hinted at it, but according to regulations 3A for youth sports, are parents allowed on sports grounds to supervise their children without SafeKey?
That's the question. According to regulations 3A for youth and sports, are parents allowed on sports grounds to supervise their children without SafeKey? So SafeKey is attached to a large group exemption. And at present, all large group exemptions require SafeKey. So the answer to that question would be is parents would need a SafeKey to be on sports grounds for any large group exemption. And those children, of course, if they're enrolled in their antigen-based testing at school, they have their 7-day pass.
Okay. For you, besides Flora Duffy's gold medal win last year. What was one of the highlights, or what are some of the highlights for you for last year?
Oh man, last year was full of ups and downs. I guess the other highlight would be the cup match, of course. The fact that we were able to have a large group sporting event of that magnitude and size was hugely encouraging and monumental. So outside of the gold medal for Florida Duffy, a close second will be congratulations to Somerset Cricket Club for retaining the cup match trophy. And then, of course, I'm a footballer at heart. So congratulations to our under 20 FIFA men's team. And of course, there was the Junior Pan Am Games, which of course we saw a number of Bermudians do really, really well. So congratulations to all those athletes as well.
Okay. What sort of new initiatives can we expect in the budget this year for your ministry?
Well, of course, COVID has really, really, really affected us, not just in the short term, Don, but also in the long term. One of the things that are in our throne speech, of course, is Florida Duffy's success is something that we're hungry and desperate to replicate. So we certainly want to do everything we possibly can to really grow and support our amateur and our collegiate sports. So one of the things I'm really looking forward to later this year in the summer, actually the week after Cup match, we're looking forward to having the Triangle Cup here on Island. And it's really a template for future events going forward. So I'm really, really excited about it.
Excuse me, if I can interrupt you. What's
Sure.
the Triangle Cup?
So there's an event coming up right after Cup match called the Triangle Cup. We're expecting about 200 footballers, amateur footballers. So we're talking about U13 to U17 flying to the island to compete for the Triangle Cup against local talent, our local clubs, as well as our national youth teams as well. So for me as a minister, there's a couple of wonderful things about this event. Over COVID, of course, our athletes, of course, haven't had a lot of time out there doing what they enjoy and doing what they do best. And that's a problem that COVID, of course, naturally has created. What this event does, of course, is one, increase the opportunity for more competition. Number two, allow our local athletes to compete against international competition without actually having to travel. Because one of the other problems with COVID, of course, has really changed how people are able to travel, given the variety of different travel restrictions around the world. So bringing this event to Bermuda is really, really important to us for competition, as well as allowing our kids to compete with international competition. But also, Don, what's really, really a blessing, I think, is that this event is going to have coaches, it's going to have scouts, and it's going to have individuals who are going to be doing an educational seminar, scouting our kids with the potential that some of these kids will have an opportunity to pursue football in U.S. institutions regarding school. So I'm really, really excited about that. We really believe that sport can actually help kids stay in school and also matriculate through school, past high school into college. And if we can use sport as a way of retaining these kids, as well as developing their football in this particular instance, and have them go off to school and continue to pursue their dreams that way, I think that's a win-win.
Was this a ministry-led initiative, or did somebody come to the ministry and say, we'd like to do this?
This is a combination of both. So Bermuda Sports International reached out to me. We had a conversation. They previously, of course, had a Triangle Cup a number of years ago. I think it was about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Whenever that occurred, of course, I wasn't involved and didn't know anything about it. And we got to talking, we got to thinking that now is a really, really good time to bring that event back. We also believe that event can be a template. So they're looking for a Triangle Cup, not just for football, but a Triangle Cup can also be for golf. It could be for cricket. It could be for basketball. So what we really want to do, of course, is link up our desire for sport with the energy and enthusiasm at the Bermuda Tourism Authority for economic development, and tourism and transport, and bring all of those things together. We have a wonderful facility up there at the National Sports Center. Having that particular facility generating positive revenue and allowing all of our sports, cricket, rugby, basketball, swimming, track and field, whatever we can fit up there, and have our kids to showcase their talents, have an opportunity to be in front of scouts and coaches with an opportunity to get scholarships to go off to school. This is exactly what Bermuda needs coming out of COVID, is something for our kids and our parents to look forward to, and sports can be that vehicle.
So I could be wrong here, but the event that you talked about previously, is that when like Glasgow Rangers sent their youth team and Porto sent their youth team?
Potentially, yeah, potentially. So right now there are a few teams from the U.S. There might be a team from Canada. There might be a team from Holland, from the U.K. So registration is open now. Actually, I really encourage some of our local clubs, if you really want an opportunity to have a preseason tournament and to prepare for your BFA season, this is a tournament that you should sign up for. If you're interested in going off to college or going off to boarding school or to a football academy, there are going to be coaches there, scouts there. There's going to be a seminar that weekend for you and as well as for your parent. So please tell your fellow athletes and players and teams, go online, register for the event. The BFA, of course, has sanctioned the tournament. We're going to have our referees and our linesmen involved. So they're going to get an opportunity to be able to ref and officiate an international match, which will help them with their experience and their development. So this is really a big deal.
Between COVID and finances, what's going to be or maybe something else, what's going to be the biggest challenge for your ministry for 2022?
The biggest challenge is actually being creative with the resources that we have, understanding that there is more need out there than potential resources. But that shouldn't discourage us from trying to find creative ways to use the resources that we have to the best of our ability to uplift sport, to encourage our athletes so that they feel supported. So we're going to be relying heavily on our creativity as well as our ingenuity. We're going to be seeking partnerships from the community and the private sector to assist us. And there are lots of ways that we can do that. We certainly want our athletes to know in full that that ministry supports them, and we're doing everything we can.
What are some ways that we can empower and do more for our youth for this coming year?
Oh, wow, that's a really, really good question.
And I say that as a father for young people that you are.
Yes. So for me, it's really helping everyone, including our kids as well as the moms and dads who are supporting them, to understand the importance of athletics, the importance of recreation for the development of the person. And so I understand, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Those are vitally important for learning. But when we're talking about the whole brain development, we're talking about developing the whole person. Sport and recreation is a huge part of that ordeal, and that's probably one of the things that our kids are actually missing the most. And perhaps missing sport and recreation, and whether it be competitive or non-competitive, I think it's having its impact in the classroom and out of the classroom as well. So if we can all recognize, as a nation, that sport is just as important as everything else, then I think that would be a good thing.
What do you think are maybe some initiatives the public may not be fully aware of that the ministry offers that helps youth?
Well, so we have youth in sport, and we also have culture. And I think I get more phone calls, of course, from the public, regarding sport. One of the gems of our ministry is the Department of Culture, and they're fantastic people. And by and large, the biggest secret that I think is out there is that the Department of Culture actually gives a grant each year to the Bermuda Arts Council to provide funding for creatives and for artists. So I know most people, of course, are looking to us for sport, but man, there's a huge segment out there of untapped talent regarding creativity and arts, and Department of Culture is leading the way on that.
For culture, what are some ways that we can help promote our heritage and our traditions that make us uniquely Bermudian?
Well, we certainly need to do a better job, and we certainly have some plans to do so, of course. But those types of things require financing and resources. But we're certainly got some active plans to do that for this upcoming budget year to ensure that the opportunities that the Department of Culture has are fully promoted, so that the community is actually aware of all of the resources that they have. Of course, being the minister now of youth, culture, and sport, there are so many things about our history and our culture that was just missing from my understanding. I'm not really sure why, but since I've been the minister, I've learned so much about our history and our culture that I think it's really, really important to sort of promote our museums, to promote our heritage sites, to get that information out there into the community, particularly into our schools, so that people can have a better sense of who we are as Bermudians and what our history and what our culture looks like. And there's a host of things that I've learned over the last 18 months that I can tell you I didn't know prior.
Always constantly learning, because that keeps us going throughout life when we pick up new facts that we can spread to other people and help promote ourselves as a people.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, we have a question, another reader question here from Michelle Smith. Why is a safe key and an antigen test required for football when it is not required for any other sport? I have not needed a safe key or antigen test to watch my child play tennis. Why not just use antigen testing for all sports?
Yeah, so that's the direction of travel that we're going in, Michelle. So thank you so much for your question. We have been faced with that question for quite some time. It's not the first time I've heard that question, not just verbatim, but also in a different variety of different contexts. So what I can share with you today is we certainly understand that's going to be the direction of travel. COVID is going to be here to stay. Of course, we want people to know their status. Antigen testing is now widely available. We have created a framework for testing. So going forward, please look out for the announcement for tomorrow regarding safe key and how antigen tests are going to be utilized going forward.
You've been in your ministry now for a year and a half. What are some things that you've learned? We just talked about learning a bit from culture, but what are some things that you've learned that you didn't know prior that makes you a better minister than you were when you started?
I didn't realize how hard this job is done. And as a newbie to politics and someone who hasn't really been around the political scene much, there was this sort of unrealistic fantasy on what it really means to be a minister and what that looks like.
Well, you're not jetting all around the world, attending events on other people's dimes?
No, at least not this minister anyway. But I really have a good team around me. Jennifer Sterling is probably the best PS in the business. I have really two good directors. The staff who work here at the headquarters, as well as the staff at Youth and Sport, are phenomenal. They're very, very dedicated civil servants. And they certainly are very, very passionate about the work that they do. So I guess in short, the answer to your question is, the thing I've learned is that it's harder than it looks. And but I'm really happy to be a part of this cabinet. This cabinet is very understanding, very responsive, and certainly has the best interests of this country at heart.
What's one thing that you're not going to get for this year's budget, or one initiative you're not going to be able to get for this year's planning, but it's something you'd really like to see happen somewhere down the road?
Well, down the road, of course, there's a few things that I got my eye on. One, of course, is replicating the Triangle Cup across sports. And I've asked Bermuda Sports International to take this particular model for the Triangle Cup and apply it across sports for any of those NSGBs who are interested in having travel teams come to the island for a major sporting event. So that's one thing up my high one. We certainly want to also do something for Clyde Best as well. And we're certainly proud of his accomplishment and his history. There has been a conversation that's been brewing for quite some time regarding a documentary for Clyde Best, and that particular project certainly has my support. So those are just a few things. I mean, there are a bunch of other things. We don't have the budget approved at the moment, so I certainly don't want to guesstimate on what I'm going to have and what I'm not going to have. But I can promise you, Don, as well as your listeners, there will be no lack of ingenuity and creativity and discussion on our part on how to best utilize the funds that we have for the betterment and the uplifting of our athletes, as well as our creatives and our artists under the Department of Culture.
It's funny you mentioned Clyde, because I'm at Clearwater Middle School, and he's one of the 4 sportsmen on our Black History Month list, along with Nikki Saunders and Brian Wellman, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head who the 4th one is, and my apologies. But like, a lot of younger Bermudians don't realize how important he was in being a trailblazer, not just for Bermuda, but for Black footballers in general.
Yeah, he certainly came along at the right time and really sort of opened up a door for Black athletes within football, particularly within the English Premier League. So there's a story that needs to be told about that experience and how he, as well as Bermuda by extension, played a role in really opening up the sport. And right now, I think that particular conversation and topic, given what we've seen in previous months and years regarding Black Lives Matter and other things around racial disparity. So I'm really hoping that this particular project really finds some traction and gets completed.
Apologies, we've lost Don. He's coming back in now.
Sorry, hit the wrong button again, which I'm prone to do. My apologies, Minister.
No problem. Usually that is my problem, my end. So that's okay. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, sorry. Just so I can refresh the last part of your answer there.
Yeah, so I was mentioning that Clyde Best's story, I think, is one that needs to be told. And given what we see in the world politically now and where we are regarding some of our social issues, his particular story certainly needs to be told. And I'm hoping that particular project comes to fruition as it relates to their endeavors to really, really highlight Clyde Best. And we can actually have that particular film finished and then perhaps actually have its inauguration and its debut here on island. And that's going to be absolutely fantastic.
All right. Minister Roban is here, but before we usher him in, I wanted to give you a chance to have a last word of anything you want to add to our conversation.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. So going forward for our spring sports, as we come to a close of our season for fall sports, the ministry, of course, is here supporting our athletes the best way we can. We're looking forward to make some announcements on tomorrow regarding large group exemptions and safety and how that relates to sport. I certainly want to thank all of our clubs out there who have really suffered a long weather of COVID restrictions. Just wanted to encourage them today and thank them for their cooperation.
All right. Thank you, Minister. We'll look forward to having you back again in the future after the budget's announced and talk about what we can reveal at that point. So thank you again.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So we're going to welcome in the Honorable Walter Roban, JP-MP, Minister of Home Affairs. Welcome, Minister.
Hello, good afternoon, Don. Happy to be back with you again.
Yes. I keep joking that I'm going to give you like a jacket like Saturday Night Live for being a member of the 5-time club. I think it's got to be close to 10 now. But always happy.
I'd be honored. I mean, I am happy to come on and talk to you anytime that time is willing. And I always have a good experience with Burners Live, so I'm happy to come on when when time permits.
Why don't we start with one of the initiatives announced this week, the Blue Shield, and talk about what it is and why is this significant and how it's going to help Bermuda.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk about that. Very excited about the Blue Shield program. It was announced last November around the time of the COP26 conference and the Joint Ministerial Council meeting in London that Bermuda would be a part of the UK government's Blue Shield program. We are the first overseas territory to be a part of it, to sign up to it, and we're honored to have been chosen first to do this in the region. It is going to provide a host of support for our overall monitoring, surveillance, and I would say regulation and supervision of our exclusive economic zone, the area of body of water, water around Bermuda that extends out from our territorial waters to a 200 plus square kilometer area of water which encircles Bermuda. That is our territory, exclusive economic zone. So we'll be supported through Blue Shield with our efforts to police that area from illegal fishing, and any activities that would be contrary to its protection and it being clean and safe.
Do we have any idea at this point how much illegal fishing is taking place in our territorial waters?
Well, there have been some reports of sort of some of the well-known culprits of global sort of large commercial fishing coming into our waters over the years. And we have always been concerned about that because even though Bermuda doesn't have our own fishing fleet, there certainly is opportunity in the future that if we can develop the capability, because our existing fishermen do not fish in that deep water area. They do not. They fish primarily within a 12 to 20 square kilometer area around Bermuda's waters. So going out that deep usually takes considerable resources. It takes a certain special vessel, and it takes time, because this would mean being on the seas for weeks and days. And as you know, those large ships, commercial ships, go all around the world for weeks and months, fishing all over the world, and then taking it back to their respective ports for commercial benefit. So there have been reports over the years of that activity, but certainly, and we now will have the capability to know more about what's going on and how we can best police it.
So if we're not fishing these waters now, why is it important for us to protect our zone?
Well, I think everybody is concerned about the state of the oceans. Ocean is crucial to climate. The health of the ocean is linked to the species of fish and wildlife that exists in the ocean. And we certainly know now that the over exploitation of that has not been healthy for the planet or for those oceans. So we want to play our part with policing our own oceans. Let me remind you that Bermuda and the overseas territories and the UK make up about 25% of the marine assets of the planet. So we have a duty to ensure that these oceans are properly protected, not only from overexploitation, but we have a right as a country to use those waters responsibly ourselves. So we'd like the opportunity to, benefit from the oceans around us that are within our territorial zone. And that is something that we would like the opportunity to do. And certainly if we allow others to overly exploit that area, we won't have that opportunity. Not only is we can't ensure that what we're doing is safe or clean or, in Bermuda's interest. Certainly it's not. And as soon as we are able to have these capabilities in place, we will certainly be able to understand what's happening out there, but also properly manage it and police it to the benefit of Bermuda. And that's what I want to see happen over time.
So what are the nuts and bolts on how it's going to be policed with Blue Shield?
Well, they'll be making certain technologies available to us that can be deployed, cameras, underwater submersibles, and also satellite capability will be used to provide surveillance for that ocean space.
Right.
And this will be supported by the UK government.
So that'll be something that they're watching, or they'll set it up and we'll be monitoring it here ourselves.
The technology will be on a number of levels, including quite a bit of it will be here in Bermuda. They will train our people and our team who are familiar with the ocean environment, and others. That will include members of our fishing community as well, who will have available technology that will assist in the surveillance of our waters. So there'll be a multi-level partnership with a number of stakeholders. And but it will be, by and large, operated within our waters by our own people. So it is intent that Bermudians and residents will be trained to operate this technology in our waters.
All right. So how many jobs? That sounds exciting that, it's going to be creating some jobs. Do you know what that number might be?
Not as yet. I mean, this is all at a formative stage, although it's confirmed it's going to happen. Certainly the existing persons who already are here in that space of marine management will be participating, whether it be our fishing wardens, whether it be people in our Coast Guard, and our own marine specialist team at the department. But there'll be more technological opportunities that come with that. Once we have the technology on board, we can determine the new opportunities that will be associated with it. And I hope to create more jobs for people who will specialize in this work, because the surveillance of our waters will be a 24-hour requirement. It's not something that's going to just be on and off, but we'll need a dedicated team who will be doing it and working with all our different partners and organizations to do it.
Now, I know Blue Shield was announced last year. You also had COP26. You had Riddles Bay, a lot more solar panels to finger. For you, what would you say would just the standout highlight for your ministry?
Oh man,
I'm going to be talking. I'm limiting you to one.
Limiting to one. Oh man, I would say perhaps it was an honor to represent Bermuda and the overseas territories in a leadership role at COP. That was probably, for me personally, one of the great honors that I was given the opportunity to do, to represent our country in a international forum of that magnitude, of historical importance, and to also lead other territories in the same effort, and to bring all of us together as one, as a major player in the concerns around climate, ocean health, and the protection of our ocean around us. So that is one thing. I could name a few others. I'm very proud, and I'll just name at least one other, if you don't mind. Certainly the creation of the Riddles Bay project, which is resulting in the largest protected land area, park area in the island's history, privately owned. There are public spaces that are large, but as a private space, this was the 60 plus acres of land is the largest private holding that will be protected as a nature reserve, agriculture reserve, and woodland reserve. That was another proud moment for me, because it created a investment opportunity that was balanced with an environmental opportunity. And it laid down a model that I hope that we can move forward with across Bermuda when we have these sort of developments, and that we're not sacrificing too much land, even though we want to maximize its investment opportunity. So that was another major achievement that I'm very proud of.
Has anyone approached you since Riddles Bay with a similar sort of initiative, or what's the status?
Well, Riddles Bay is moving on and can be considered a success. There are a few other projects that may be shaped in the same way, where the developer is seeking not to maximize all the investment opportunity in the land, but to balance that with proper environmental and land preservation and even restoration, with restoring the land to some level of its natural state, with putting back some of what has been taken out, particularly eliminating endemics, putting in eliminating invasives, and putting in the endemic species and other things that will complement the land and its use. So there are others who are looking at that, and I know there's one other development which I've been made aware is following on a similar model where the developer had the opportunity to build a lot more real estate, but has chosen to extract a significant amount of the real estate and create a more spacious development that actually maximizes the environmental opportunity and quality of the land, and balancing that with the development opportunity. So there's at least one other development that I know of which I believe is following that model, and I look forward to seeing more of it.
What do you think? Sorry, I have a little tickle.
I hope you're okay there, Don. I don't want you to, hope you're all right.
Yeah, don't have a glass of water next to me. For you, what was the biggest challenge for last year?
The pandemic, and still accomplishing our goals around that. We were able to accomplish a number of things, including ensuring that the planning process and development process didn't really have major interruption from the standpoint of our work. And even for my team in the different departments to still continue to provide the services and support to the community that they are here to do. That was challenging for all of my team, but we were able to accomplish it by and large, I believe, and I'm proud of them. I'm just a minister, but there are tens of other people who do the work of this ministry who I am happy and proud to be working with, rather than necessarily just them working under me. I work with them to make sure that Bermuda gets the services that are required. So that was a challenge, but I'm proud of the performance of my team in this ministry and for what they were able to do despite the obstacles of the pandemic, which we all were struggling around. So the pandemic was our biggest challenge, and now is the recovery from the pandemic and building back a environment that is not only sustainable but also is economically prospering is the next challenge that I face with my colleagues, and that's what we're working on as well.
For 2022, with the budget upcoming, what's going to be a major initiative that you're going to see launched? We're going to see launched this year that's going to be helpful to the environment.
Well, we're continuing our work on the environment as a priority. We are working on putting together the resources to carry out a comprehensive climate study right now. So that's one. We have the continued effort to deal with single-use plastics. We are also continuing with our work with the Bermuda Ocean Prosperity Program and coming up with a marine management strategy that will bring the work of the Bermuda Ocean Prosperity Program to fruition. And certainly my efforts to continue the effort to convert Bermuda from being a country dependent on fossil fuels to a path towards a clean renewable energy future. Those are some of the key things that we'll be doing, is ensuring a clean, safe environment, sustainable, and advancing the energy initiatives. Also, embracing certain initiatives in the area of agriculture as well. As you know, I've been giving that attention in the last couple of weeks. So agriculture, energy, Bermuda Ocean Prosperity Program, and supporting and financing the conversion to clean energy via the Green Energy Initiative. And of course, let me not forget our efforts around the regulatory sandbox, bringing that legislation to the House as well, which will support innovation and opportunity and investment in our energy space and diversification. These are some of the things that I'll be focusing on over this legislative year that I look forward to completing, but most of all, look forward to talking to the public about so that they know what's going on and how these initiatives will benefit them.
Today there was a press release about the Bermuda Ocean Prosperity Program. Do you want to elaborate on that at all?
I can't remember exactly what was in it. If you can give me some highlights. I've been dealing with a lot this morning with a number of things. If you can help me out, I don't mind asking for help. I dealt with a lot of things today.
Okay, so just sent out about an hour ago, releasing a report titled "The State of Bermuda's Marine Waters: A Snapshot of Bermuda's Exclusive Economic Zone." Okay.
Yes, I recently dealt with that report. That's another comprehensive report about the state of our marine environment, and that's some of the work that Bob is doing with our respective departments and our team, including with BIOS, to an overall assessment of our marine environment. And that's all part of laying the groundwork for the steps that are going to be taken for the future. So that report is extremely important. I look forward to the public getting their heads around it and seeing what's in it, because understanding the state of our marine environment and how we're going to ensure long-term sustainability and safety and prosperity of our ocean space is very crucial for Bermuda's future development. It is absolutely crucial. And in some ways, Don, we're going back to where we started. Bermuda is an island. Most of our history over the past 4 centuries, up until perhaps the last 100 years, was linked to the ocean. We were a maritime center. We were a maritime economy. We benefited from efforts to gain prosperity and trade from shipping and from maritime activity, whether it be wrecking, whether it be blockading, whether it be our sloops transporting goods all across the North America down to the Caribbean and elsewhere. These were the stuffs of Bermuda's trade. We grew crops at one point when we had a more agriculture-based economy, and they were shipped to the United States and to North America for sale. Obviously, we're not that anymore, but the ocean is where Bermuda's prosperity and development started. So we're kind of going back to that to shape our future. And I look forward to seeing how that's going to be shaped in a modern 21st century way.
Right. Now, I know this isn't, when we talk about climate change in the ocean, this doesn't seem to be a big concern for a lot of people at this point, but there are island nations in the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean where they're having to build other islands at above sea level to help protect the people and have a place where they can live. What can you do to stress that we need to be looking now rather than wait till we get into a dangerous situation?
Well, the state of our ocean and that link to climate is crucial for Bermuda. I mean, picture a Bermuda where, let's just say, I'll paint a scenario, a slightly worst case scenario where the goals of the Paris Accord and mitigation and adaptation haven't been met. And we have a Bermuda in the not too distant future that experiences sea level rise, thus our beaches disappear. The volatility of climate brings much more volatile weather to our shores, such as hurricanes and other storm weather, which makes Bermuda a difficult place for people to visit, as the weather will be a lot more unstable, or an environment that sees our fisheries and our reef and our coral reefs potentially impacted by warming seas and higher acidification of the oceans around us. Picture a Bermuda where coastal erosion is more acute, and meaning that without attention to that, we could find parts of our island eroding away into the ocean and making living by the shoreline or using the shoreline in a positive way difficult. That's the Bermuda that we could potentially have if we don't do our part in this whole process. And so that's why the climate study that we're getting done is crucial, so that we can chart out our path forward to deal with climate change. That's why the work of Bermuda Ocean Prosperity Program is useful, because they are going to be devising ways through the marine spatial planning on how we can responsibly use our waters to sustain our economic prosperity and our way of life, as well as protecting what needs to be protected with no-go zones for fisheries and other areas, because there are sensitive areas within the oceans around us. So without us as a country seriously taking the issue of climate change to heart, that's what we face. If we don't address the issues of single-use plastics and be responsible in our uses of plastics and other materials, if we don't move away from fossil fuels and continue to allow our environment to be polluted by the byproduct of the burning of those fuels, our health, our health and welfare is at risk, because we know the impact that carcinogens and hydrocarbons and others can impact our personal health as like human beings. So these are the things, if we don't take climate issues seriously, we could be impacted by negatively. And in like the long term, our viability as an environment to live in could be at risk for everybody who lives here and for our future generations. So we have to take this seriously right now, so that we can protect the future that we all want for each other.
Do we have a sort of a timeline of when you expect the single-use plastic legislation will be completed?
That process will begin this year. We just completed the consultation period where we gathered data from stakeholders and from the community. That is being put together. A report will very soon be generated, and that will be shared with our stakeholders. And then we can chart out the path and the phasing, and we will take into consideration all that feedback from everyone and chart out a reasonable path to begin the elimination of these elements in our environment, so that we can, and also it'll be realistic, because it will take into consideration the options and the alternatives that are available affordably to everyone. Because as I've said repeatedly, it is not my desire, one, to overly burden our business and our community with changes that are costly. It is also important for me to make sure that everybody feels they've been heard in this process, so that as we chart it out and people will see how we phase the approach to the elimination, they will see their own ideas incorporated into that plan, so that people can agree to the path that we take. I do not believe, Don, that anybody disagrees with the importance of eliminating single-use plastics.
Yeah, I guess tit for tat here. I dropped, and the minister's sort of frozen right now.
And that's what I am interested in, making sure it's done properly. I want to work with the community in this, not believe that they're being imposed on unnecessarily.
Okay. Minister, I touched on earlier this week when I was interviewing Charles Jeffer, the CEO of the BTA, and he was talking about he'd like to see more the expanded use of electric vehicles for our tourists. Is that something that you would be in favor of, as to help wean us off in a small way from fossil fuels?
Well, I'm all for the electrification of transport, period. So that's not an issue that I have. Now, as you would know, over recent years, there have been expanded options available for our visitors with the Twizzlers and other vehicle options that have been created for electrification in cycling as well as in mini cars. Now, how that will be made more available to our visitors, I will leave that to the BTA along with the Ministry of Transport. But generally, I am supportive 100% of the electrification of transport. I am overjoyed that we are electrifying our bus fleet. And certainly our visitors will have the benefit of that. And I look forward to more options of electrification being pushed. I look forward to seeing our taxi fleet electrified. I look forward to our residents taking up more electric options as they become more affordable and available. So I'm all for electrification of transport because that does clean up transport in Bermuda. And I think we all will benefit from that over time. And as we converge and reach the 2035 goal of the majority of our electrical generation being from clean sources, it is my hope that that will bring the same conversion to transport overall for Bermuda. So by 2035, certainly by 2050, which is the goal for net zero, Bermuda can have examples of what it's done with electrification of transport, electrification of generation, and overall cleaner environment for all these activities will be a reality, certainly by 2050, but certainly by 2035, I expect that these goals will have been reached by and large.
Well, and I know our neighbor to the west of us, they're making changes to the electrical fleets, but a lot of that's being driven by the automotive industry and phasing out gas-powered vehicles. And I mean, so it's not being legislated necessarily by the state and federal governments. Would you like to see us legislate, because as automakers just go to electric vehicles, there's going to be less and less of a need of it, like a set time frame? You mentioned 235 or 2250. What would be a reasonable target to electrifying everything?
Well, I believe that by 2035 we can have a significant amount of our transportation fleet, both public and private, electrified. And I must take my hats off to Liberty, Belco. They have virtually electrified their fleet. So they've kind of shown the way of what can be done on a smaller scale. Like the government itself is investing in electrification outside of the bus fleet. If you go to the cabinet office now and to some other places, you will find on government property charging stations. And there are a few models that have been purchased recently, I believe. Public Works can confirm that have been electrical for usage as part of the government fleet. And that's a commitment that I believe Public Works has made, is to steadily electrify much of our transport. So I believe that these efforts are achievable. I am mindful, though, that the market itself is still, this is a very economic issue, and affordability is crucial for people, and that conversion can be costly. And the conversion to renewables is, there is a cost to it, whether it be electrification of transport, solar panels on your homes or at a commercial level. This is an investment issue. And the financing to do that is something that remains a challenge to be faced and to be completely solved globally as well as here. So we as a government are devising ways that we believe there can be affordable paths towards these goals of electrification of transport, diversification of generation, and also diversification of solar generation amongst our homes, and having people benefit from that to bring down the overall cost of energy, which we need to get down. But this can only come from some very costly investments over time that will benefit the end user at the end of the day. And I realize that, and it's not an easy path for any individual or for institutions to take, but it's a worthwhile path. And in the end, it will be worth taking. Right now, it is actually, from an investment standpoint, actually more profitable to invest in renewables than it is to fossil fuels globally. And so I just want Bermuda to be a part of that effort in innovation, that bold step that we as an island nation must take, because islands are particularly dependent on fossil fuels, which affect our growth economically, affect our, I guess it also affects our investment prospects, and also invest the quality of life of our people. So we need to address these issues. It's going to be tough. It's going to take some will, but the conversion is necessary.
Our time has flown by. Quickly, if you have a last word, what would you like to say to the Bermudian people?
Well, I'd like to thank the Bermudian people for being patient with myself and my government with the journey that we've been going over the past couple of years with COVID. And we have an economic recovery plan that we want to spend more time focusing on, which is why we have talked about living with and beyond the pandemic, because we realize our economic priorities to rejuvenate tourism, to create more jobs, to attract investment, and to ensure cleanliness and prosperity and a clean energy future are going to take a refocus of the government along with our community partners to get there. So I just want to thank the Bermudian people for giving me the opportunity to participate as the Deputy Premier, as a minister, and as a representative of my constituency, Pembroke East, in this process. Because I know I'm here because of the people. And I want to ensure that they had the confidence in me as their servant to get these things done.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Premier. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you for the time, and I'll happily come back when time permits to talk more about what we're doing. Because there's, and as my goals become more real, I will come back and talk to you more about them over the next year. The next legislative year.
I'm sure we'll have something to talk about after the budget's released.
Yes, we will.
Okay. All right. Thank you again for being here. And on behalf of Burn News, I want to thank all our listeners for watching Minister Roban and Minister Peets today. As always, have a beautiful day.